Christmas Day, 10:47 a.m. Locks have changed, you've got no home. Flashed across my phone from Mom. Any normal person would have turned around and left forever, but I'm not normal. And what happened when I refused to walk away will haunt our family for generations. You know that feeling when your phone buzzes and your whole world just stops? December 25th, 9:12 a.m., and I'm sitting in my crappy studio apartment, still in yesterday's clothes, when the text comes through. Locks changed. You've got no home. Just like that. No Merry Christmas, no explanation, nothing. I read it 3 times because my brain refused to process what Mom had actually sent me. My spare key was sitting right there on my desk, mocking me. This little piece of metal that used to mean safety, that used to mean I could always go back if things got bad, now it was just junk. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely screenshot the message, but I did it anyway. Evidence, right? Like I was building a case against my own mother. The walk back to what I thought was still partially my house felt like walking to my own execution. Christmas morning and the streets were completely dead. Just me and the sound of church bells ringing somewhere in the distance. I counted 14 steps from the sidewalk to our front door, 14 steps I'd taken thousands of times before, but this time they felt different. Heavy. That Christmas wreath was still hanging there, but the pine needles had turned brown and were scattered all over the porch. Even Mrs. Peterson's dog was barking at me like I was some stranger casing the joint, and then I noticed it. My nameplate was gone from the mailbox. You know the one Dad put up when I turned 16? The Morrison family, it used to say. Now it just said the Morrisons. Subtle, Mom. Really subtle. I slid my key into the lock, and it went in about halfway before hitting something solid. That grinding sound when metal meets metal and refuses to budge. My heart was pounding so loud, I thought the neighbors might hear it. Tried the back door too, same dead stop. Same metallic rejection. Here's something most people don't know. In most states, you can't just lock someone out of their residence without proper notice, even if they're not on the lease. I looked it up later on my phone, standing there like an idiot on my own front porch. But what was I going to do? Call the cops on Christmas? Hi, yes, I'd like to report my mother for being dramatic. My backpack had my ID, my phone charger, and about $40 in cash. What it didn't have was a place to sleep tonight. I filmed the whole thing, the key not working, the locks clearly being different because some paranoid part of me thought I might need proof later. I kept my voice steady in the video, no yelling, no drama, just facts. But then I saw the curtains move in the living room window. Someone was definitely home, standing just far enough back that I couldn't make out who it was. I could smell Christmas dinner cooking, that mix of cinnamon and ham that used to make me feel safe. My Christmas stocking was missing from the mantel. I could see the other 3 hanging there through the window, but mine was just gone. The porch light flicked on, then off, then on again. Like Morse code for "we see you, but we're not coming to the door." I texted Mom, "I'm outside. Can we talk?" The little notification showed, read 10:04 a.m., but no response. Look, I know what you're thinking. Why did I leave in the first place, right? 2 months ago, we had this massive blowout about everything: rent money, my college plans, my overnight shifts at the warehouse. I was 22 and tired of being treated like I was still in high school. Mom kept leaving passive-aggressive notes about dishes and curfews, and I finally snapped. Told her I was moving out, packed my stuff, and left. Well, most of my stuff. My mail still came to the house. My winter coat was in the hall closet. Half my books were still in my old bedroom. I was paying Dad $20 a month to keep boxes in the garage. This wasn't supposed to be permanent. It was supposed to be me proving a point. Mom's last words to me before I walked out were, "Come back when you're ready to be serious about your life." Guess she decided I wasn't serious enough fast enough. Dad finally texted me back around noon, "Talk to your aunt." "We're busy." Thanks, Dad. Really feeling the Christmas spirit there. But then Aunt Lisa sent me something weird, just 4 numbers, 7241. No explanation, no context. Something about those numbers felt familiar, so I walked around to the shed behind the house. The padlock was still there, and on a whim, I tried Lisa's code. Click, it opened. What I found inside would explain everything and make everything so much worse. My phone buzzed at exactly 9:12 a.m. on Christmas morning. I was sitting in my tiny studio apartment, still in yesterday's clothes, nursing what felt like the world's worst hangover from a bottle of cheap wine and too many regrets. The text message lit up my cracked screen like a slap across the face. Locks changed. You've got no home. I read it once, twice, three times actually, because my brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing. The words just sat there cold and final, like a death sentence written in Arial font. My spare key, the one I'd been carrying around like some pathetic security blanket for 2 months, suddenly felt heavier in my pocket. Useless metal on a keychain that used to mean something. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely screenshot the message, but I did it anyway. Some survival instinct kicking in. Evidence, right? Like I was already preparing for a war. I didn't know how to fight. The walk back to what used to be home felt like walking through a movie set. Christmas morning meant empty streets, just me and the sound of church bells ringing once in the distance, probably calling people to celebrate peace on earth and goodwill toward men. Yeah, well, someone forgot to send that memo to my family. I counted 14 steps from the sidewalk to our front door. Don't ask me why I counted. My brain does weird things when it's trying not to completely fall apart. The wreath was still hanging there, but the pine needles had turned brown and crusty, dead basically. How fitting. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop even further. My nameplate on the mailbox, the little brass thing Dad installed when I turned 18, said it made the house feel more official, was gone. Peeled right off, leaving just a faded rectangle where my name used to be. Even the neighbor's dog started barking at me like I was some stranger wandering where I didn't belong. Makes sense, right? Maybe I was. I slid my key into the lock anyway, because what else was I supposed to do? It went in about halfway before hitting something solid. A grinding sound, metal against metal, and then nothing. Dead stop. I tried jiggling it, pressing harder, even talking to the damn thing like it might listen to reason. The back door gave me the same treatment. Same dead stop, same mechanical middle finger telling me I didn't live here anymore. Here's the thing most people don't know. In most states, you can't just lock someone out without proper notice. There are laws about this stuff. Tenant rights, even for family members. But knowing your rights and being able to do something about them are two completely different things, especially when you're standing on a porch with nothing but a backpack and your wounded pride. I pulled out my phone and started filming the locks, the doors, everything. No yelling, no dramatic breakdown, just quiet documentation of the moment my life officially went sideways. That's when I saw the curtains move in the living room window. Someone was definitely home, standing just out of sight, watching me stand there like an idiot trying to break into my own house. The smell of cinnamon and ham drifted out through the mail slot, Mom's Christmas breakfast, the one I used to help her make every year before everything got complicated. I looked up at the mantel through the front window. My stocking was gone. 23 years of hanging that stupid felt reindeer stocking, and now there was just empty space where it used to be. Well, that hurt more than I expected. The porch light flicked on, then off. Twice. Some kind of signal maybe, or just Mom messing with the switch while she decided what to do about her problem child, standing outside like a lost package. I texted her directly, "Can we talk?" The little read notification popped up at 10:04, but no response came back. Why did I leave in the first place? That's probably what you're wondering. It wasn't some dramatic movie scene, no slamming doors or screaming matches that end with someone throwing clothes out a window. Just 2 months ago, we had this massive blow-up about everything and nothing. Rent money, college plans, my late shifts at the restaurant, all the usual family dysfunction, but amplified by too much stress and not enough patience. I still paid for storage space in the garage. My mail still came here. My winter coat was hanging in the hall closet. Mom had said, "Come back when you're serious about being part of this family again." But what happens when you come back and the family decides you're not serious enough? My phone buzzed at exactly 9:12 a.m. on Christmas Day, and honestly, I should have known better than to check it. The message hit me like a brick to the face. Locks changed. You've got no home. I read it once, then twice, then a third time, because surely this was some kind of sick joke, right? But there it was, clear as day, from Mom's number. My hands started shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone steady enough to screenshot the text. That spare key sitting on my desk suddenly felt like the most useless piece of metal in the world. The walk back felt like something out of a horror movie. Christmas morning, and the streets were completely empty except for the occasional church bell ringing in the distance. I counted every step from the sidewalk to our front door, 14 steps I'd taken thousands of times before, but now they felt foreign. The wreath was still hanging there, but the pine needles had turned brown and crusty. Makes sense, right? Even the decorations were dying. What really got me was seeing my nameplate peeled off the mailbox. Someone had taken time to scrape away every letter of my name while leaving everyone else's intact. The neighbor's dog started barking at me like I was some kind of stranger, which I guess I was now. When I slid my key into the lock, it went in about halfway and then stopped dead with this grinding sound that made my teeth hurt. I tried jiggling it, pushing harder, even whispering a little prayer to whatever saint handles door locks. Nothing. The back door was the same story. Complete dead stop. Here's the thing that really burns me up in most states. Changing locks without notice is actually illegal, especially when someone's been living there and paying rent. But try explaining tenant rights to a door that won't budge. My entire life was in that house, and all I had was my backpack with my ID and about $37 in cash. I even filmed the locks with my phone for proof, though I was smart enough not to start yelling and make myself look crazy. The curtains kept moving in the living room window. Someone was definitely watching me struggle out there, probably enjoying the show. I could smell cinnamon and ham drifting from our kitchen, which meant Christmas dinner was happening without me. My Christmas stocking, the one with the little reindeer Mom embroidered when I was 7, was gone from the mantel line. The porch light flicked on, then off, then on again, like some kind of twisted Morse code. I texted Mom, "Please just talk to me." The response showed, "Read 10:04," but no reply came. Nothing hurts quite like being ignored by the woman who taught you how to tie your shoes. But why did I leave in the first place? Well, that's where this gets complicated. 2 months ago, we had the mother of all blow-ups over rent money, my college plans, and the fact that I was working late shifts at the diner. Mom said I was being irresponsible. I said she was being controlling. We both said things we probably shouldn't have. I stormed out with just my clothes and my attitude, but I kept paying for storage space in the garage. My mail still came to the house. My winter coat was still hanging in the front closet. When I left, Mom's exact words were, "Come back when you're ready to be serious about your life." I tried calling her again, straight to voicemail. Dad's text was even worse. "Talk to your aunt. We're busy." Aunt Lisa sent me something weird. Just numbers. 7241, nothing else. I stared at those digits for 10 minutes before it hit me. The shed padlock. I tried the combination with shaking fingers, and it clicked open like magic. What I found inside made my stomach drop to my shoes. My stuff was already boxed up and labeled "Donate by 12/26." Tomorrow, my birth certificate sat on top in a sealed plastic bag like evidence from a crime scene. There was a letter in Mom's handwriting that started with, "We can't keep waiting." Realtor business cards were taped to a shoebox, dated from last week. Open house scheduled for next Sunday. Utility cutoff notices were spread across everything like confetti. The final line of Mom's letter read, "Be safe, start clean, call tomorrow." Then there's what happened when I knocked one more time. Mom opened the door with red, puffy eyes and said the words that changed everything. "It was the only way you'd make you come home." 2 months behind on the mortgage. House was already in pre-foreclosure. The sale wasn't about punishing me, it was about survival. No home didn't mean I was homeless. It meant we all were, and she couldn't figure out how to tell me. But what came next would show me just how wrong I was about everything. I've never felt my phone buzz with such perfect timing and such horrible news all at once. It was 9:12 a.m. on Christmas Day, and I was sitting in my cramped studio apartment, still in yesterday's clothes, scrolling through Instagram stories of everyone else's perfect holiday mornings. Then that text came through from Mom, "Locks changed. You've got no home." I read it 3 times before my brain could process what it actually meant. The first time I thought maybe she'd sent it to the wrong person. The second time I figured it was some kind of autocorrect disaster. But by the third time, staring at those 7 words that somehow managed to demolish my entire world, I knew she meant exactly what she said. My spare key was sitting right there on my desk next to a half-empty coffee mug and unpaid bills. Suddenly, it looked like the most useless piece of metal in existence. I took a screenshot of the text with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Part of me needed proof that this was really happening, because honestly, even after 2 months of barely speaking, I never thought Mom would actually go this far. Let's not forget, I didn't just disappear into thin air when I moved out. This wasn't some dramatic storm off into the sunset situation. I still had stuff there. My winter coat, important documents, boxes of memories from high school that I couldn't fit in this shoebox I'm calling home now. My mail still went there because I hadn't gotten around to changing my address yet. Makes sense, right? When you're paying $800 a month for a place where you can touch both walls if you stretch your arms out, official address changes feel pretty permanent. The walk back to what used to be my house felt like the longest 14 blocks of my life. Christmas morning streets are weird, completely empty, except for the occasional jogger who's probably trying to burn calories before dinner. Church bells were ringing from St. Mary's down the street, that slow, heavy sound that makes everything feel more serious than it should be. I counted my steps from the sidewalk to our front door because I needed something to focus on that wasn't the panic rising in my chest. 14 steps. Same as always. The Christmas wreath Mom hung up every year was still there, but the pine needles had turned brown and crusty. Even the Johnson's dog next door barked at me like I was some kind of stranger instead of the kid who used to sneak him bacon when I was 12. And the weird part is, my nameplate on the mailbox, you know, the little Martinez family plaque Dad put up when we moved in, had my name peeled off. Just Mom and Dad's names left, like I'd never existed at all. My key slid into the front door lock and stopped dead. That grinding metal-on-metal sound when something just won't turn no matter how hard you try. I jiggled it, twisted it, even tried that little trick where you lift the door handle while turning. Nothing. The back door gave me the same dead stop, same grinding rejection. But why would she actually change the locks? I mean, I knew she was mad about me leaving, about the fights we'd been having over rent money and my late shifts at work and whether I was taking life seriously enough. Her favorite phrase, by the way, every conversation somehow ended with her asking if I was taking things seriously enough, as if working 40 hours a week while trying to figure out my next move wasn't serious enough for her standards. Then there's the legal side of this whole mess. In most states, you can't just lock someone out without proper notice, especially if they still have belongings inside. My backpack had my ID and about $37, but it definitely didn't have my bed or my birth certificate or the winter coat I was going to need in about 2 hours when the temperature dropped. I filmed the locks with my phone, not because I was planning some legal battle, but because I needed proof that this was really happening. No yelling, no dramatic door-banging scene like you see in movies. Just me, standing on a porch that used to be mine, documenting the moment my childhood officially ended. The curtains moved in the living room window. Someone was definitely home, standing just out of sight, probably watching me fumble with keys that didn't work anymore. I could smell cinnamon rolls and ham coming from our kitchen, the same Christmas breakfast Mom had made every year since I was 7. What happened next changed everything I thought I understood about why Mom sent that text in the first place. My phone buzzed at 9:12 a.m. on Christmas Day, and honestly, I thought it was going to be one of those generic Merry Christmas texts from someone I barely talk to anymore. You know the type, the ones your aunt sends to her entire contact list because she feels obligated. But when I looked down at the screen, my stomach dropped so hard I swear it hit the floor. Locks changed. You've got no home. I read it 3 times, maybe 4. The words didn't make sense at first, like when you wake up from a weird dream and reality takes a second to kick in. My spare key was sitting right there on my desk, suddenly as useful as a chocolate teapot. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely screenshot the message, but I did it anyway because some part of my brain was already thinking about proof, about evidence, about how this couldn't possibly be legal. The walk back to what used to be my house felt like walking to my own execution. Christmas morning, and the streets were completely empty, just me, my backpack, and the sound of church bells ringing once in the distance. 14 steps from the sidewalk to our front door. I'd walked that path 1,000 times, but today it felt foreign, like I was trespassing on someone else's life. The wreath was still hanging there, but the pine needles had turned brown and were scattered all over the welcome mat. Makes sense, right? Nothing says you're not welcome. Quite like dead Christmas decorations. Then I noticed it. My nameplate was gone from the mailbox. Not fallen off, not damaged. Gone, peeled away like I'd never existed. Even Mrs. Peterson's dog started barking at me like I was some kind of stranger, and that stupid mutt had known me since I was 12. I slid my key into the lock, and it stopped dead with this grinding sound that made my teeth hurt. You know that feeling when you're absolutely certain something should work, but it just doesn't. That was this moment, times a million. I tried the back door next, thinking maybe Mom had only changed the front lock as some kind of dramatic gesture. Nope, same dead stop, same grinding rejection. Here's the thing that really got me. In most states, lockouts without proper notice are completely illegal. I'd looked it up months ago during one of our bigger fights, just in case. But knowing your rights and being able to do anything about them on Christmas morning are two very different things. My backpack had my ID, my phone, and about 30 bucks in cash. What it didn't have was the keys to a bed for the night. I filmed the locks with my phone, trying not to yell or make a scene because the last thing I needed was the neighbors thinking I'd lost my mind. But honestly, I was starting to wonder if I had. The curtains kept moving in the living room window. Someone was definitely home, standing just out of sight, watching me fumble around like an idiot on my own front porch. The smell of cinnamon and ham was drifting out from our kitchen, Mom's traditional Christmas breakfast that I'd been eating for 19 years. My mouth watered despite everything. Isn't that messed up? Getting locked out of your own life, but still craving your mom's cooking. I checked the mantle through the window. My stocking was gone, not moved, not hidden, completely absent from the lineup where it had hung every December since I was born. The porch light flicked on, then off, then on again. Some kind of signal, maybe, or just Mom being weird and passive-aggressive, which was definitely more her style. I texted her, "Really? On Christmas?" The message showed read 10:04 almost immediately, but no response. Nothing. Let's not forget why I'd moved out in the first place 2 months ago. We'd had this massive blow-up about rent money, college plans, and my late shifts at the restaurant. I was trying to save up, trying to figure out my life, but apparently not fast enough for everyone's liking. I still paid for storage space in the garage, though. My mail still came here. My winter coat was hanging in the hall closet, or at least it was supposed to be. Mom had said, "Come back when you're serious about your future." Well, nothing makes you serious about your future quite like having your past locked away from you. I called Dad next, desperate. His text back was brutal in its simplicity. "Talk to your aunt, we're busy." Then Aunt Lisa texted me a code 7241. No explanation, no context, just 4 numbers that felt like either salvation or another cruel joke. But those numbers were about to unlock way more than I expected. My phone buzzed at exactly 9:12 a.m. on Christmas Day. I was still in my pajamas, coffee getting cold, watching some terrible holiday movie on repeat. The text was from Mom, "Locks changed, you've got no home." Just like that. 9 words that made my stomach drop straight through the floor. I read it 3 times because surely I was still half asleep, right? But there it was, glowing on my screen like some twisted Christmas miracle. My spare key was sitting right there on my desk, suddenly as useless as a chocolate teapot. My hands started shaking so hard I could barely screenshot the message, but I did it anyway. Evidence, I guess. Though evidence of what, I wasn't sure yet. The walk back to what used to be home felt like a death march. The streets were completely empty except for me and my growing panic. Church bells were ringing somewhere in the distance, all holy and peaceful, while my world was apparently falling apart. I counted every step from the sidewalk to our front door, 14 steps I'd walked 1,000 times before. The Christmas wreath was still hanging there, but the pine needles had turned brown and brittle. Even the decorations looked like they were giving up. Then I noticed it. My nameplate on the mailbox was gone. Not fallen off, not weathered away, peeled off. Clean, deliberate. The neighbor's dog started barking at me like I was some stranger casing the joint. This dog had known me for 3 years, and now even he was treating me like an outsider. My key slid into the lock like always, then stopped dead. That grinding sound when metal hits metal wrong. You know the one. The back door was the same story, same dead stop. I'm no legal expert, but I'm pretty sure lockouts without notice are illegal in most states. Not that it mattered right then. My backpack had my ID and some cash, but it sure didn't have my bed or my winter coat or any of the things that made a place feel like home. I filmed the locks with my phone, keeping my voice steady. No yelling, no drama, just documentation. The curtains in the front window moved and I caught a glimpse of someone standing just out of sight, watching, waiting. The smell of cinnamon and ham was drifting from our kitchen, and for a second I felt like some Victorian orphan with my nose pressed against the glass. My Christmas stocking, the one with my name and Mom's careful stitching, was gone from the mantel. Not moved, not repositioned. Gone. The porch light flicked on, then off, then on again. Some kind of signal, maybe? My text to Mom showed read 10:04, but no response. Radio silence from the woman who used to call me twice a day to ask if I was eating enough vegetables. Look, I know how this sounds. Poor little adult child locked out by mean mommy. But here's the thing. I moved out 2 months ago after the worst fight of my life. We screamed about rent money, college plans, my late shifts at the restaurant, real ugly stuff that you can't take back once it's out there floating in the air between you, but I still paid for storage space in the garage. My mail still came here. My winter coat was hanging in the hall closet like it belonged there. Mom's last words to me were, "Come back when you're serious about your life." Well, apparently this was her version of making me serious. I called her phone straight to voicemail that wasn't even set up. Dad's text was even worse. "Talk to your aunt. We're busy, busy on Christmas morning." Busy while their kid was standing on the porch like a door-to-door salesman nobody wanted to see. Then Aunt Lisa texted me a random code, 7241. Nothing else, no explanation, no context, just numbers that made no sense until I tried them on the shed padlock. Click. Open. Inside that dusty shed, my entire life was packed into boxes labeled "Donate by 12/26 tomorrow." They were planning to give away my stuff tomorrow. My birth certificate sat on top in a sealed plastic bag like some kind of graduation present. There was a letter in Mom's handwriting, realtor cards dated from last week, utility cutoff notices taped to everything like confetti from hell. The letter said, "We can't keep waiting. House is selling. Be safe. Start clean. Call tomorrow." I knocked on that door one more time. Mom opened it with eyes red from crying. She said, "It was the only way you'd come." Turns out no home didn't mean I was homeless. It meant we all were. She owed 2 months on the mortgage, and the house was already scheduled for sale. But there was still something she wasn't telling me. Something about why today, why Christmas, why this particular kind of brutal honesty wrapped up like the world's worst present. My phone buzzed at exactly 9:12 a.m. on Christmas morning, and honestly, I thought it was going to be one of those generic Merry Christmas texts from my dentist or something. You know, the ones, automated messages that somehow make holidays feel lonelier than they already are. Instead, I got 4 words that made my stomach drop straight through the floor. "Locks changed, you've got no home." I read it once, then twice. Then a third time because my brain refused to process what Mom had actually sent me. My spare key sat right there on my desk, suddenly as useful as a chocolate teapot. My hands started shaking so hard I could barely screenshot the message, but I did it anyway because some part of me knew I'd need proof of this moment later. The walk back to what used to be my house felt like walking through a movie set. Everything looked wrong, even though nothing had technically changed. Streets were completely empty, except for the occasional car heading to church, and those damn bells kept ringing like they were announcing the end of the world instead of celebrating Jesus' birthday. I counted 14 steps from the sidewalk to our front door, same as always. The Christmas wreath still hung there, but now the pine needles were brown and dropping onto the porch like tiny dead soldiers. Then I noticed it. My nameplate on the mailbox had been peeled off, leaving just that sticky residue outline where Sarah used to be. Even the neighbor's dog barked at me like I was some kind of stranger. That hurt more than it should have, considering that stupid mutt has known me for 6 years. My key slid into the front door lock exactly like it had 1,000 times before, but then it stopped dead. Just grinding metal against metal, refusing to turn. I tried jiggling it, pulling it out, trying again, nothing. The back door gave me the same treatment, which honestly felt personal at that point. Here's something most people don't know. In most states, locking someone out without proper notice is actually illegal. Not that I was planning to call the cops on my own mother on Christmas Day, but still, knowledge is power, right? Too bad my backpack held my ID but not my bed, and all the legal knowledge in the world wasn't going to keep me warm that night. I filmed myself trying both locks, keeping my voice steady and calm. No yelling, no dramatic breakdowns. Just evidence in case I needed it later for reasons I didn't want to think about yet. Then I saw the curtains move in the living room window. Someone was definitely home, standing just out of sight, watching me fumble around like an idiot on my own front porch. The smell of cinnamon rolls and honey ham drifted out through the mail slot, all my favorite Christmas breakfast foods that I apparently wouldn't be eating this year. I looked up at the mantel through the window and felt my heart crack a little. My Christmas stocking was gone, just Dad's and Mom's hanging there like I'd never existed. The porch light flicked on, then off, then on again. Some kind of signal I didn't understand. I texted Mom, "I'm standing outside, can we talk?" The Read 10:04 notification popped up immediately, but no response came. Look, I need to explain why this whole situation happened in the first place, because I know how this sounds. 2 months ago, I moved out after the worst fight of my life. We screamed about everything: rent money, my college plans, my late shifts at the diner that kept me out until 2 a.m. But I still paid for storage space in the garage. My mail still came here. My winter coat hung in the hall closet. When I left, Mom had said, "Come back when you're ready to be serious about your future." I thought she meant come back when I was ready to apologize, not come back before the house gets sold out from under all of us. My phone rang. Dad, finally, but all he said was, "Talk to your aunt. We're busy right now." Then he hung up before I could ask what the hell that meant. Aunt Lisa texted me a few minutes later, just 4 numbers. 7241. No explanation, no context, nothing else. I stared at those digits until something clicked in my brain. The shed, the old padlock on the storage shed in the backyard. I tried the code, and it clicked open like it was waiting for me. Inside, I found something that changed everything I thought I knew about why those locks got changed. But what I discovered in that shed made me realize this wasn't just about me being a stubborn kid who wouldn't come home. This was about home disappearing entirely, and Mom's desperate attempt to save what little was left of our family before we lost everything. Christmas morning, 9:12 a.m. to be exact. My phone buzzes against my nightstand like it's trying to crawl away from whatever message just landed. I'm still in that weird Christmas morning haze, half awake, thinking maybe Mom sent some sappy holiday text about family and forgiveness. Boy, was I wrong. Locks changed. You've got no home. I read it once, twice, 3 times, because surely my brain isn't working right yet. But there it is, black text on white screen, delivered with all the warmth of a parking ticket. My spare key sits on my desk, suddenly about as useful as a chocolate teapot. My hands shake as I screenshot the text, because even in my shock, some part of me knows I'll need proof of this moment later. The walk back to what used to be my house feels like walking underwater. Everything's muffled and strange. Christmas morning means empty streets, just me and the sound of church bells ringing once in the distance. I count 14 steps from the sidewalk to our front door. Weird how your brain latches onto random details when everything's falling apart, right? The wreath still hangs there, but the pine needles have turned brown and crispy. Someone peeled my nameplate off the mailbox. Even Mrs. Henderson's dog barks at me like I'm some stranger casing the joint. My key slides into the lock like always, then stops dead with this grinding sound that makes my teeth hurt. I try the back door, same story. Now here's something most people don't know. In most states, changing locks without proper notice is actually illegal. But knowing your rights doesn't make sleeping on the street any warmer, does it? My backpack holds my ID and wallet, not much else. I film myself trying both locks, no yelling or dramatic breakdown, just evidence. Then I see the curtains move, someone standing just out of sight, watching me fumble with keys that don't work anymore. The smell of cinnamon rolls and Christmas ham drifts from our kitchen window, and for a second I'm 8 years old again, racing downstairs to see what Santa brought. My stocking's gone from the mantel line, I can see that much through the window. The porch light flicks on, then off, then on again. Like Morse code for "we see you but we're not ready." I text Mom, "Can we talk?" The response comes back, "Read 10:04, but no reply." Radio silence from the woman who used to call me twice a day to ask if I was eating enough vegetables. Look, I moved out 2 months ago after the worst fight we'd ever had. Money, college plans, my bartending shifts that kept me out until 3 a.m., everything exploded at once. But I still paid to keep my stuff in their garage. My mail still came there. My winter coat hung in their closet. Mom's last words to me were, "Come back when you're serious about your life." Well, here I am, and apparently serious doesn't matter anymore. Dad finally texts back, "Talk to your aunt." We're busy. Busy on Christmas morning? With what, exactly? Then Aunt Lisa sends just 4 numbers, 7241. No explanation, no context, but something makes me try it on the shed padlock out back, and it clicks open like magic. Inside, my entire life sits in boxes labeled "Donate by 12/26. My birth certificate's on top, sealed in a plastic bag like evidence from a crime scene. There's a letter in Mom's handwriting: "We can't keep waiting. House is selling. Realtor business cards dated last week. An open house scheduled for next Tuesday." Utility cutoff notices taped to a shoebox lid with the kind of precision that tells you this isn't a snap decision. But here's the part that breaks me at the bottom. In Mom's careful cursive, "Be safe. Start clean." Call tomorrow. I knock one more time because what else can you do? Mom opens the door with red, swollen eyes and says, "It was the only way you'd come." Turns out she's 2 months behind on the mortgage. The sale isn't about pushing me out, it's about keeping the bank from taking everything. No home didn't mean I had nowhere to go. It meant none of us did. I grab my documents, hug her tight enough to crack ribs, and stay for Christmas dinner. We eat ham and pretend everything's normal while the realtor's sign gets planted in our front yard. Sometimes the worst news comes wrapped in the best intentions. But that conversation with Mom, that's when everything I thought I knew about our family started unraveling in ways I never saw coming.